My journey started in Chicago. I'm born and raised in Chicago. And I mean, people from Chicago, if you know the city, it's a lot. It's a lot of things that you see. It's a lot of situations. It's just a lot to get into. And it's probably not a better place for a born writer to pull information from. So a lot of the stuff that I write comes from the experiences I had coming up in Chicago, the things that I seen or saw, and so I'm able to really write some really emotional or real stuff because I don't know how to do it any other way. That's what I was taught coming up, you know, in every situation. I try to keep everything in a reality type of situation. So that's when my journey started. I went to Columbia College for film school, downtown Chicago, and I met other filmmakers and people like that. I was so comfortable around the artistic crowd, but I was also in the streets, and I was still trying to figure things out, you know. But you know, so I was going to school, and then I would go be in the streets or whatever. So you know, but things really changed for me when I left Chicago and I started doing poetry. I started writing poetry, and when I started writing poetry and the effects that my poetry had on other people is what really got me starting to think that I had a talent for writing, because it took me a while to really understand what they were hearing, because people would react to me a certain way, and you know, and once I kept getting certain reactions by my poetry, I would think, hey, what are they hearing that I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Because it was just normal life to me. So that's when I started to understand the power of my words and kind of what I was meant to do, because my poetry started really affecting people, and people was giving me certain reactions from it. So, mind you, I was already writing screenplays before I moved and started writing poetry, but the confirmation came from the reaction from the poetry, and it let me know that I wasn't necessarily normal with my upbringing and the things that I knew. So I just took that and really and just owned it. I just owned it, and that's a lot of my stories come from that. I could tell you what a writer's sin is. A writer's sin is a person who has the ability to write stories and write things, and you're writing things, in my opinion, that it's not moving humanity forward. And I'm not even, you know, they don't necessarily mean that every writer needs to write something so profound or beat you over the head with their ethics. But there should be some point, and this is just my opinion, there should be some point or moral to your story or the things that you write. There has to be some type of passion behind it, or some type of something that I'm gonna pick up, even if it's from your own experiences. But if you're just writing, you know, people killing each other or whatever, and that's it, you know what I'm saying? And you know, you really, like, you know what I'm saying? Because even you know what, even when you write like that, there's still messages in that. You know, if you're a person that write about street life or anything like that, you still could put I'm from the streets. There are street ethics out here. You know, there's street morality out here too. I mean, I think that the common misconception is that people don't have fun in the hood, and they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but it makes it even better when a writer writes about that, but they're able to balance it out with those things, you know, and not just about killing, selling drugs or whatever, because that's not helping our community. So, you know, for me, one of the first things I did when I wrote my first screenplay, like I absolutely made a decision right then and there. This is a conversation I had with myself in the early 90s, that I wanted to tell stories that wasn't about the hood. I wanted to challenge myself, because writing about the hood was easy to me, and I wanted to be known as a writer that told great stories. So I challenged myself to tell different type of stories. Now, that doesn't mean like, okay, how can I explain this? When I had to tell my story, it was a hood story because it was my story. But any story that I've made, any fiction story that I've made, I'm just a good storyteller, But in those elements, you still, in the fiction stories that I write, you will still find yourself entertained. It's interesting because somebody told me that when they read my last book, they told me that they felt like it was street. And it kind of offended me because, I mean, people who don't know what the streets is, they'll say it's from the streets because, I don't know, for whatever reason. But with me knowing the streets, it was nothing street about that book. But, but if you've never been there and you read my stuff, I would think that, I have the perfect balance of just talking about life, talking about spiritual situations, along with reality or whatever. But I definitely I'm not dedicated to street or urban writing. I just want to tell good stories. And I think that a writer's sin is not being true to himself, and the writer's purpose, I believe the reason why you've been given this talent is to make the world a better place. However you want to make the world a better place. It don't have to be my way. It don't have to be his way. But it could be something as like you been in a bad relationship, or you being molested, or you being in foster care. Anything that somebody in the world that could connect with and read it and feel encouraged. And so that is what I believe that a writer's purpose is. I don't know if I'm really qualified to answer that question, but I can give you my perception of what I believe could be a writer's downfall. And I believe that to be not growing in your writing. As I said before, you want to challenge yourself. You want to challenge yourself and write stories that's totally opposite of who you are. To challenge yourself. I think a lot of writers, same with poets, they may hit on something that works and successful for them, and then they stick to that and they never change it. But for example, if I'm a poet and I get on the mic and I make a love poem about what I'm gonna do to you and things like that. That may be cool for that audience at that moment, and it may actually work several times. But after a few years of performing that audience grows up, they change, they have different life experiences, and so they're not feeling that no more. They want more something that they can connect with their experiences because of what they've been through the last few years, And I think a lot of times writers, rappers, anybody that has to write, comedians, whoever, they don't grow because they don't talk about different things. They tell you the same stuff over and over and over. And I think any writer, whether it's comedy, poetry, or rappers, if they, after a while, you know what you're gonna get. So with that person, so you're not gonna be as interested. But the writers, to me, if you buy a D-Revolution book, you're gonna get a different story each time, and it's not gonna feel like the last story. But that's something that I I set out to do from the beginning. It's to tell stories that was totally opposite of me. Where somebody, and I've had this happen, when somebody read my stuff and say, D-Rev, you wrote that? Like, they can't believe that it came from me. And that is my thrill from writing. That is my thrill of growing. Because when you get one of my books, there's no way that, you know, you would think with my personality and how I am, that I write something like that, or that I could touch you like that. And that is the payoff in writing that I enjoy and that I will continue to pursue. And so I would say to all the writers out there, definitely find some type of purpose behind it, and definitely, if nothing else, challenge yourself. Try, you know, write different stories. You know. All right, peace. Like and subscribe to my page.